Today I'm taking the time to show you how I automate as much as possible to create these YouTube videos from start to finish. This covers everything from the initial thought, an idea, all the way through to publishing the final video, followed by a blog post, which I generally publish for those who prefer to read rather than watch. I've had quite a few people ask me about my workflow, especially the technical bits, so I thought it was about time that I shared the whole process. Plus, I'll be sharing some of the scripts and automations that I've built along the way, so you can grab them for free if you wanted to use them for your own projects. So sometimes I'm just walking the dog and something pops into my head. Maybe I've just solved a particularly annoying automation problem, or I've discovered a new integration. When this happens, I'll often just record some quick voice notes onto my phone. Nothing fancy, just me muttering a few notes in a raw format. I don't try and make them perfect, and often they'll contain unexpected phrases like, "Murphy, don't eat that," because my Labrador's just tried to eat something questionable off the path. Later on, I'll feed those notes into AI to help me turn them into proper bullet points and remove the ums and ahs. It's quite satisfying actually, just turning those scattered raw thoughts from that's something cool moments into actually something that might be useful content. Other times I have specific things I want to share, so maybe I've been dabbling with a new device, or I've just figured out something that I think the community would find genuinely useful. The key is capturing these ideas when they happen, because they have a habit of disappearing otherwise. Once I've got an idea that I think is worth exploring, everything goes into Obsidian. I absolutely love Obsidian for this stuff. It's perfect for getting organized thoughts and building out content structures. Sometimes the process happens over weeks and I'll have a note sitting there, and every now and again I'll just log on and I'll add another bullet point or flesh out some of the sections. A real game changer has been setting up a proper YouTube template in Obsidian. I use Templater with a custom script that handles all of the tedious setup work. When I want to create a new video script, I just select new note using Templater, and it automatically uses the YouTube template and copies the file into the correct location. This might sound like a small thing, but it removes so much friction from the process. I can literally create a new script structure within seconds, which means I'm more likely to actually capture ideas when they strike. You know how it is, the best ideas always seem to happen when you're nowhere near a computer, usually while you're brushing your teeth or trying to remember if you've locked the front door. Once I've got all of the bullet points properly fleshed out, I feed them into a Claude project, and this is where I gain back even more time. The Claude project has a bunch of prompts that I've trained from previous videos using Notebook LM. Essentially, I've taught it to write in my voice and style, so when I give it bullet points, it can turn them into more structured scripts that actually sounds like me, rather than generic AI content. I do have to say though, it's remarkably good at making fairly standard topics particularly cringy. I like dad jokes, but it can really go off the rails sometimes trying to be funny. Obviously, I still need to edit the output. AI isn't perfect, and sometimes it suggests phrases that just don't work or sound a bit strange. The key is using it as a starting point rather than the final product. It's basically good for a first draft, but it can be pretty good at creating the framework for the thoughts and message that you want to communicate. For the actual recording, I've got a setup that works really well for me. I use OBS to capture my entire MacBook screen for any software demonstrations, and I've got a Sony ZV-E10 for proper B-roll footage as well. The tripod that I have and the mount for the camera have these little Ulanzi clips that taking the camera off and mounting it on the tripod a snap. I don't have to faff about with screwing it on each time, which saves me a bunch of time and hassle. One thing that's made a huge difference is a script I wrote that automatically copies anything with a creation date within the last 3 hours to a working folder. This means I can record bits and pieces when I have small pockets of free time, and then everything gets organized automatically. Okay, let me dive into one of my favorite automations, the lighting setup that's triggered when I start recording. This is actually the exact same setup that I use when I take video calls for work. The automation will be triggered by my work Mac or personal Mac camera turning on. This uses the Home Assistant companion app for the Mac, so the automation is pretty straightforward. When it detects that I'm recording, it automatically turns on the light behind my Kallax unit. That's a WLED strip using a preset that gives a nice ambient lighting. The ceiling light gets turned off, it changes the preset on my picture frame WLED, turns on the WLED in the corner of the room, and it also turns off the Govee Hexa glide behind my monitor. I've also got a physical button on my desk that can trigger the same automation. Plus, it checks for motion in the office to make sure I'm actually here before doing anything. When the webcam stream gets turned off or I hold the button down again, everything returns back to normal. And it's just one of those automations that works well in the background and I don't even have to think about. For recording the actual narration, I use a teleprompter plugin for Obsidian along with my script. This lets me maintain eye contact with the camera while reading through the content naturally. I used to use an actual teleprompter, but I can just position the Obsidian window directly below the camera instead. The automation I just mentioned handles all of the lighting automatically, so I can just focus on the actual recording without worrying about any of the actual technical setup. Right, let's talk about the editing. This is generally what takes the most time in the whole process. If any of you know a good way to speed this up, seriously, shout out in the comments because I'd love to hear your suggestions. I can imagine it won't be too long before an AI can do a half decent job, but I don't think we're quite there yet. YouTubers who actually make money from their channels can afford to pay editors to handle this part. My channel doesn't really make money, so it's all down to me and my questionable editing skills. Be sure to hit like and subscribe if you want to support the channel. It generally makes a difference and it might ultimately help fund my eventual editor hire, or at least fuel my caffeine addiction. I use CapCut for the actual editing and I've got another small project that lets me quickly create intro titles and export them to pull into new videos. Again, this is all about removing friction and making the process as smooth as possible. Once the video is edited and published, I run it through another script that generates a blog post automatically. This is something I built myself and open sourced, so you can grab it for free. I'll add a link down in the description. The process uses OpenAI Whisper to extract transcripts from the video, cleans up the transcripts and creates semantic sections. I can then select relevant images for each paragraph that I like the look of, and it will then generate a Hugo blog post based on a template I've set up. Once the blog post is created, I can check it locally with Hugo to make sure everything looks right. If I'm happy with it, I commit the changes and push them to Git. Cloudflare then automatically picks up the Hugo site and publishes it to smarthomeideas.info. This is probably a good time to mention that if you didn't know, I also publish a blog post alongside all of my YouTube videos, so that anyone who prefers to read can still enjoy my content without having to listen to my voice. Finally, there's one more script that I should mention, my affiliate link checker. This might seem like a small detail, but broken links are surprisingly common and can be quite annoying for viewers. This is something I've only recently made, but it feels like it rounds off the process quite nicely, and I'm pretty happy with it. The script scans both my YouTube videos and website for affiliate links, checks which ones are broken, and outputs a list so I can go and fix them. It's another one of those background maintenance tasks that's worth automating. This script is also available for free on my GitHub. Link in the description if you want to grab it, and it's also linked up on my website as well. It might seem like a lot of moving parts, but each piece solves a specific problem and removes friction from the creative process. The key insight is that good workflows aren't about having the fanciest tools, they're about identifying the repetitive or annoying parts of the process and finding ways to automate or streamline them. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you found this useful, and I'll catch you in the next one. Happy automating.